Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Dropped and Hopped. Um, it's Halloween time, so in this episode, we are. I'm going to share with you a scary story. Something that happened in my childhood. Is true. I'm always somebody who I am a skeptic, but I also uh, I do believe because things have happened to me um, like this. I've experienced things. Maybe not a ton, but I mean, at least in this instance. But I'm always somebody who tries to find a rational explanation for things that happen. You know what I mean? If you just totally jumped, oh, it's a ghost, it's something. There's a lot of times you can say, well, it was because this thing fell off this was loose, whatever happened, and usually come up with you know, a logical explanation for it. It's only when things don't make sense and there's really no way that you could figure out how things could have happened. That's really where this story kind of had me saying I think this was legitimate. If you're gonna tell a ghost story, you gotta tell it right. Um, well, I guess uh, this happened in, I don't remember the year. I think I was around 10 years old, and it was in Greenwood, Indiana. I'm not going to tell the exact location of the house. People live there still. I don't want, cause them any problems. But you know, like I said, I was very young. Um, my dad had moved in with his girlfriend. Um, I think they were engaged, so they got a house together, and they got to go figure a great deal on a house. And it was a nice house. It was big, two-car garage. It was kind of like a tri-level. Um, had a big backyard with a swimming pool. I mean, it was great. Good neighborhood. Um, and I think it's kind of like the movies. You know what I mean? It was almost just like a movie. Um, where you don't notice anything happening right away. Um, and I think the first thing that, in hindsight, looking back, I found this lock in the garage, and it was an old time lock, almost like a lock you would see, like a pirate's treasure chest, having on there, kind of opened, this way, and it was very old and solid metal. I mean, everything. It was. Like I was always trying to pick the lock. I never, kids always want to do that, and I always want to open it. I don't know what I end up doing with the lock, um, but that was the first thing I kind of found. And even though a lock by itself is not scary, um, later on in the story that might have a little more relevance. But that was the first thing. Like I said, by itself didn't mean anything. Um, Later, things start happening. Um, it wasn't like always super obvious, I guess. I mean, it wasn't like stuff flying off the shelves or, this huge haunting, but um, I can't remember the sequence of events that things happen, but, I remember one time me and my dad came home, and the driveway and the kind of goes down into the garage, and um, the master bedroom was right above that, and you see the the blinds peek open, and my dad's like, "Who's in my room?" And then so we go in the house, and there was somebody home. His stepdaughter, or soon to be stepdaughter, whatever, his girlfriend's daughter was home, but she was sound asleep because she had been in the room snooping and then acting like she was asleep totally. So that one I could kind of chalk up to that she could have just been in there snooping around when she wasn't supposed to, seen we was home, took off and act like, So that one wasn't a big one, but that's still up in there. We still really don't know. Uh, I remember being around Christmas, and being in the front room was like upstairs. It kind of like you go in the front door. There's like a little landing. You can go upstairs to the front room and the kitchen and the bedrooms, or you can go downstairs and there was another room and like a big room. We made it like a kind of like a game room. And there's a laundry room down there and another bedroom, and then it can go out to the garage. So we're in the living room upstairs, and it's Christmas time, so there's some Christmas decorations. There's like a little half wall in the kitchen on the other side, but that's all open. But there's a little half wall with some bells strung up on the top of the half wall, and they rang by themselves. Now there was a large sliding glass door that went out to like a little deck and then to outside, so I could chalk that up to maybe there was a draft, there was a leak somewhere, but the bells didn't ring all at the same time, and they didn't ring in the direction of the sliding glass window. I mean, if they would have been a gust of wind, it would have came from the side of the sliding glass window and probably all kind of went at the same time. But they rang one at a time away from where the air could be coming through, almost like somebody just took their finger and went bling, 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 all the way down the string of bells. I have no way to explain that one. It was very creepy. We were all standing right there, and nobody was around, that they could have done it. There's no way anybody could have faked it. And we would just stand there, and we all just started looking at each other like, did you just see that? So that was a pretty big one. Also, one night my dad said he said he could always hear kids playing on the stairs. It was his bedroom, and then there was the stairs to go outside, or to go downstairs. And he'd always say hear kids playing on the stairs at night. I could kind of chalk that up to maybe when I was terrified. Not from that instance, but from things that were going on in my room. He'd say he would go in my room, in the closet there was like a kind of like a space for to get up in the attic or something like that, little vent thing, probably about that big, and it would be moved every day, and he would go up there and he'd take it, close it, and he'd go back the next day. It'd be turned sideways. He would close it, put it to where it sat flush where it's supposed to. Every day it would be moved. You could chalk that up maybe to I don't know, squirrels or some animals, I don't know. So that one's highly unlikely that it was animals moving that every day. Um, but it's something that was happening. And the biggest thing for me was at nighttime, I would just all of a sudden feel like there's like a million people watching me. I'd be laying in bed and I could just start getting this overwhelming feeling that there's people just standing all around my bed. And, like a little kid, you grab your covers and I put them up over my head and man, I can still feel, I'm getting chills thinking about it, man. I'm uh, just terrified, and I would try to make myself think, they always tell you to think good, happy thoughts. So my favorite place at the time was Showbiz Pizza, which later became Chuck E. Cheese, but Showbiz was always better. Um, so I would just imagine myself being at Showbiz Pizza, and that did not work. And I would just feel hot and scared, and so a lot of times I would go, I go knock on my dad's door, and eventually you're just afraid of the dark, or you're afraid of, this is what kids do, You're not sleeping in here. You gotta go back to bed. So I go back in there, and I'm just terrified. I can feel something, and I would go and I'd be crying outside of his door, and then wanted to knock, but I was like, he's gonna get mad at me, and I'd be crying and crying, and I would go, sit on the stairs. So maybe that's where he hears the kids playing on the stairs. Maybe that was just me, being terrified outside of his bedroom. Or maybe he actually heard kids playing. I don't know what he actually heard. Um, but also, in a big thing in my room, while I would be freaking out, and this would happen like every night almost for a long time. I lived there for like a year, and trying to figure out, is it something there, or I don't know. Am I just scared of being in the dark? I don't know. Well, I even had like a nightlight, and I could just feel something there. I could see that there was nothing there, but you feel it. And I remember sometimes the headboard would start boom, 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 just like that, up against the wall. And again, I'm freaking terrified. I'm in the bed, my head was right behind me, and kind of, it's a weird thing to think about, but I tried to rationalize it as a kid, saying, well, it's my dad having a little hanky panky in there with his old lady. But it's impossible, because his room was on the entire opposite part of the house. It was his bedroom, the stairs, which was a long opening, because it was stairs that went around, and then the stairs go down. So all that was pretty much like a double stair wide area, then the bathroom, and then my room. So if that guy was shaking the whole house like that, man, God bless him. But highly doubt it, because there was nothing else shaking, there was nothing else moving, nobody else said anything. Doors weren't, it was just my headboard, which was like literally facing the outer part of the house, I guess. His bedroom's here, and mine's here, and then there's nothing that's outside. I don't know if that made any sense. And I try to think, it could be, was there trains? Man, there was no train. There's no train tracks. Like I said, nothing else is moving. The windows are not moving. There's no noise. There's no rumbling. I just live next to the train tracks. I know what it's like. There's nothing. So that was probably for me the biggest thing. When something's moving, you know, for no reason, that was huge. That was huge for me. Um, Also, my dad, which I don't remember or recall at all, he said one night he woke up and I was like standing in the hallway or something like that. And nobody's ever known me to sleepwalk. He said I was like standing in the hallway and I just looked like someone wasn't right in my face. So he kept calling to me and I just started walking toward him. And he thought that I was going to go to him. But I turned and I started walking down the stairs. He keeps calling, hey, what are you doing? So I started walking downstairs and he's like, get back in, that kind of thing. Get back in, where are you going? So he follows me down. I go all the way down to the lowest part of the house. And there, like I said, we had like a little game room. We had like this little chair that would fold into like a little bed or something. And I was all the way almost like in the corner of the room. And I walked over there. I sat on the chair. And I don't know the face. This is how I imagine the face. Something like that, I don't know. He said he said he got creeped out. Like, he's like, man, I got freaked out. You just stared at me and this weird look on your face, and then you was just out. And then he said, I picked you up, took you back in your room. He goes, I never seen nothing like that. So I think that was the biggest thing that creeped him out, and having in the house. And I don't know. I'm sure other people had experiences. Those are the only ones I really can remember. And my dad doesn't have any really in contact with his ex fiance. They split up, and not because of the house. It was later, but and I think they ended up moving out too. But I think my dad said that they bought the house from some people that worked at the same company that him and his fiance worked at, and they went and told him, do you guys have any weird experiences at that house? And they said, yeah, why do you think we moved out? Thanks a lot. And I don't know, but I think that somebody had said either the people who lived there had told them, or somebody somehow, or had said that there used to be a graveyard there. And I know that sounds just like poltergeist, but of course we didn't have any experiences like how as crazy as they did. But they said they moved the bodies, moved the caskets somewhere to another place, and that there was a graveyard there. And I do believe it, just because remember the lock. In the old days, they would lock the caskets, and that looked like, like I said, it was nothing. It was a lock. But later, in thinking, oh my God, that could have been a graveyard from like the 1800s or something like that. Maybe only had like a small families, because families in the old days they didn't take you to this huge cemetery all the time. A lot of times they just had buried you in the backyard, or had their own little family cemetery. And so for all we know, that was just a family little plot there. And maybe while digging the caskets up, I mean, from sitting in there forever, if they were old and made out of wood, I'm sure the locks would have broke off the wood. And I really don't know, but just the fact that lock was there, and then hearing that, I totally buy it. I believe it. Um, so that's my story. Like I said, it wasn't totally insane, but it's definitely um, super scary, especially for a child. And you know, um, like I said, I'm a huge skeptic about these kind of things. There was a time, in a lot of your mind can't help to like kind of flood to uh, or jump to the conclusion that it's a ghost or something like that. I remember one time I was living with my dad, um, and I was sitting in my room, and the door was like somebody kicked the door, boom. So I thought it was my dad. I thought maybe he had something in his hand. Came up, kicked the door, just wanted me to wanted hit to let me know that he was home. And so I was like, come in. Nobody says anything. I said, come in. Nobody says anything. So I go open the door, and nobody's there. So I call him, nothing. I go look out the window. His car's not even home. His car's not there, so he's not home. So instantly you're like, what? I'm in this old house by myself, and I'm like, oh, you start getting scared, spooked out. So I shut the door. And I sit down. I'm like, man, what just happened? I'm thinking to myself, what's happening right now? And then boom again. So I jump up. I start, I'm like, man, I want to attack something. Uh, so it goes boom. I jump up and I open the door as fast as I can, and there's nobody there. I'm like, whoa, even I was gonna be a badass, but then all of a sudden there's nobody there. Like, I started getting freaked out, so I shut the door. I'm like, man, you're getting panicked, scared, but then calm down. Kept watching the door, see if it happens again. And being very scared that it was gonna happen again, but I was sitting there watching the door, and I noticed at the bottom of the door it's starting to move a little bit, and moving out a little bit until eventually it moves to a certain point, and then it boom. I like it was just the door. It's an old house, old door. It's warped, and it was catching on the door jamb. It's a little part of the door, and once as the door was kind of twisted a little bit, it was trying to go back to being twisted. So, I mean, it wasn't super twisted, but and once it finally relieved itself from the door jamb to where it could go back to itself, it's like a spring. It kind of like popped out. That's all it was. I mean, so I totally thought it was a ghost, but I sat there, watched it, I rationalized it, and I explained it. The other house, I'm still searching for answers. Whether or not that was a graveyard at any point, I haven't done any research on it. Um, like I said, I don't want to give the address, but I don't know. Who knows? Um, Thought about maybe trying to contact the people that live in the house. My dad drove by there maybe about a year ago, and I was like, you know what? What if there's nothing happening with them? What if I don't want to put anything in their head and say, hey, all this experience has happened to me. And all of a sudden they're like, oh great, now we're all freaked out. They might be having a wonderful life. And also, I mean, if there is anything there, I don't want to go back because I don't want anything following me home. So, but if you live in Greenwood, Indiana, and you think that maybe I'm talking about your house, leave a comment. Maybe we'll talk about it. But that's it for my Halloween spooky ghost story. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.